It's okay. Okay, let's start. 601. Okay.
Austin, we good? Okay, welcome everybody to the Alpine City Planning Commission meeting for.
Is your Alan, turn your mic on so she
Time
can,
to start over.
yeah, so she can record it.
Great. Welcome everybody to the Alpine City Planning Commission meeting for the 15th of March, 2022. Austin, we're up and rolling on YouTube, I suppose. We're still doing that?
Yeah, yep.
Okay.
Yes,
excellent.
we are up and running.
And do we have the voice of Jed remotely?
Jed is not going to be joining us
Oh,
tonight.
we don't have the voice of Jed.
He's on spring break
Okay.
with his family.
Oh, good for him. Okay, we will excuse Jane Greiner today, our chair, as I believe she's come down with a migraine, or if that was a violation of HIPAA, then we don't exactly know why she's here.
Yeah.
But otherwise, let's start with a prayer by Jeff Davis, if that's okay.
Yep. Okay. Our Father in heaven, we're grateful to be gathered here tonight, and we're grateful for the citizens of Alpine and their involvement here in our city, and we're grateful for those that serve here on the Planning Commission, and we ask for thy help and guidance. And we also ask for thy blessing upon those that are troubled right now in parts of the world. And we express our gratitude for the blessings which we have, and we do so in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Jeff. And we'll continue with the Pledge of Allegiance by John.
Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, John. Hey, and also welcome to the citizens of Alpine who are here tonight. We're going to open up the meeting first for public comment. And just to clarify, we do have 3 action items on the agenda tonight. And so if any of you are here for public hearing on those action items, then you can hold fire until those items come up. What we'll have right now is public comment for any item that is not on the agenda. If anybody is here with just a random communication or something they would like to say that is not one of the 3 action items, then that would be the time we'd invite you to the podium and give us your name and address and what it is you'd like to discuss. Okay. I'll let the record reflect that there's no public comment at this time. So let's see, reports and presentations. Austin, I see none, so I assume none means none.
Yeah, we don't have anything tonight.
Okay. Then let's proceed directly to item A, action item A, a public hearing on ordinance 2022-08. Which is the exposed face of retaining walls. And Austin, if you'd like to introduce that for us.
Yeah, okay, so this is an ordinance that is being proposed by staff. So we have a retaining wall ordinance in our city. All retaining walls over 4 feet tall require engineering. And then we have certain regulations when it comes to the height of a retaining wall. So the way that a wall, you can have a wall up to 9 feet if it's visible from the nearest public right of way. So that would be from the street. If you can see a wall, then you can go up to 9 feet tall. But if it's not visible from the nearest public right of way, then you can go taller than that. So what we're proposing in this ordinance here is to kind of clarify what it means to have a visible wall. So right now it's pretty vague. What does it mean visible? Is it, if I can see a little piece of it? Is it And so we just want to clarify that if it faces directly, well, the way that we're defining it here, I guess, is if it's 60 degrees parallel to the nearest public right of way, then that's what we would deem visible. So that's what we're proposing. So that, for example, if you had a wall that was completely perpendicular to the road that went like that, so like a T, if you will, you're really not going to see the face of that wall driving by. Maybe from another angle if the road curves or something, but straight on, you're really not going to see that wall. And so the reason why this is coming up is because we're looking at doing an expansion to the cemetery. So all the good flat spots in the cemetery have been used. And so now to create more plots in there, we're going to have to use some of the terrain that's more hills, and which will require retention walls. And so some of those retaining walls are going to have to be taller than 9 feet. And so we want to make it so that hopefully we can build that, but not create an eyesore, but be able to build what we need for the city's basically our needs that we have right now. So let me just go to the actual language here so we can take a look at this. So we're proposing to just kind of slip into our retaining wall ordinance a term here that we would call exposed face of retaining wall. So that would, and then we go on to define what an exposed face of a retaining wall is. And let me just pull up that definition. Okay, so this is the definition that we're proposing. The part, so it says exposed face of retaining wall, the part of a retaining wall that is above ground and visible. An exposed face of a retaining wall shall be considered visible from the nearest public right-of-way when the alignment of the wall is within 60 degrees of parallel to the nearest public right-of-way. And so again, we're trying to create an ordinance, we're trying to create a clarification in our ordinance so that we can allow retaining walls in certain instances, but still eliminate tall walls that could be eyesores in the city. So that is what we have, and I guess we're having a public hearing on that tonight. So,
Okay. Is that it for the presentation?
yeah, that's all I have on that.
Okay. Great. Let's go ahead and close then Austin's presentation, and let's go ahead and open for public comment. Action item A, ordinance 2022-8, exposed face of retaining walls. So if there's anybody, any of the good citizens of Alpine who'd like to come to the podium and have any public comment with respect to this action item, we'd invite you to do so at this time. Okay, apparently that one's not the hot topic for the evening. So we'll go ahead and close.
Do you guys want us to give comments that we think we can help solve it, or do you vote on it, or is this something you want comments from, or no?
Yeah.
You do?
Well,
Seems like an easy fix, I just don't know if you know.
what's that?
It just seems like an easy fix, I don't know if you guys already know what to do about it.
Well, so yeah, the process is just if there's we'd like to invite members of the city to come up and comment if that's why you're here, and if you'd like to. We're not necessarily advocating or asking you to. It's merely just a public forum. It's your meeting, and so if there is any discussion anybody would like to make, we would invite you to do that, but not, it's not necessary.
Point of clarification, I'm trying to visualize.
So if you have a comment, we just invite you to come, up and give us your name and your address.
Beth West, 926 Healy Homestead Circle. And I'm just trying to understand the definition, because maybe I'm just dumb. Within 60 degrees of parallel. What does that look like?
Okay, well, you're not dumb either. I pretty much failed, math and
Geometry.
any of that. So Austin, maybe you have a clarification on
something
that.
with your arms.
Yeah,
So
so
there's a parallel road like this.
your math lesson, I guess, if you have, if this is the flat horizon, parallel line.
For the
you're-
road, like the
you're
road.
looking at it
the
face
road.
on, right? So this is the road. Let's say the road goes from my left hand to my right hand, and you're looking straight on.
That's
you know,
90.
as you go like this, we're increasing in degrees, right?
So that would be 90 degrees and then
Yeah.
you're closing into 60.
Right, exactly.
Got it.
So we're moving into 60, yep.
Okay.
This isn't why we're here, but I'll just say really quick.
No, you only get one shot at the podium. So
Andrew Young, 998 Stonehenge and 1371 East 490 South. The only reason I'm coming up is because this seems to be like an issue that overlaps with a lot of other things that we've come up with. I think the retaining wall would only offend neighbors, right? So I don't know. So two things. Do we have something in our city that just says within reason of the neighbors' opinion about it?
No, it's
No.
spelled out.
It's spelled out.
It's
spelled
very
out.
prescriptive on
So
all
then
these
that would be the
ordinances.
thing, because we come from, for other issues, which would be the same thing. Someone gets mad at a retaining wall, someone gets mad at a pickleball court, someone gets mad at a house really high on the mountain,
Yep.
someone gets mad at a trail. It seems like a deeper, easier fix just to add within reason of the circumventing neighbors.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a neighbor that wouldn't not understand at a cemetery. We'd all be for that. But if there were, they would make themselves known. So
Yeah.
I don't know if we have a deeper principle of solving this,
Yeah,
but I think a retaining wall right behind someone's house, that neighbor's
Right.
influence would be greatly impacted. So
Yeah.
just within reason of the surrounding neighborhood, I think you'd get pretty good.
Yeah, I mean,
Pretty
it's
good
a good
results.
idea. The way that our
That's
ordinance, I
just-
mean, we try and go with a very specific or prescriptive, I guess is the term that he just said, ordinance. So we try and like hard numbers, like it
Yep.
can only be 9 feet tall. Not,
just
well, it can
reminds
be
me of
9
when
feet
I
tall
would-
if your neighbor wants it to be that way.
Yeah.
And you
Right.
could have one neighbor that maybe is fine with it, maybe another neighbor that, maybe even a 3-foot wall wouldn't be okay with them.
Right, but
So-
the general
Yeah.
neighborhood would probably go one way or the. It just reminds me, I'd go to these trips to Israel and I couldn't get on an elevator on Saturdays from 6 PM to 9 PM. I couldn't walk so many steps on Saturdays, and they took it way too far. It got so bizarre. It's still that
I
way
think
to
the
this
elevator
day.
thing is in the Old Testament.
It is. It's as old as the Old Testament. But
Yeah, yeah.
within reason of the proximity of the neighbors, I think you'll solve this one quick. That's all I
Yeah.
was gonna say. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, generally, the city isn't into, let's make our code and our ordinances, so full. I mean, that's not where but we want to be consistent. And we want to be, very measured in everything. And so something like this is a common thing that we would talk about. We would get public comment, and then we close public comment. We'll talk about it amongst ourselves and we'll make a motion. Generally, if it comes from the city, that motion usually will pass, and then it goes to the city council. Generally, not always, but generally goes to the city council. And then the city council like, well, the planning commission said they recommended this. We're gonna do the same thing again, ask for a public comment, talk amongst the city council, and then pass the ordinance. So this is kind of, in a lot of ways, this is kind of the first stage where we've kind of tried to do as much work for the city council, so the city council, can go, okay, well, that's already been talked about and they feel good about it. So, we're gonna do it.
And to follow on Jeff's comment, this is an administrative body. We're a commission appointed by the city council to basically understand, look, we have a set of ordinances. There's a proposal made. Does it fit the ordinances? Does it not fit the ordinances? Is there an exception or a variance being asked? And more or less, we just run through the administrative process. And ultimately, we make a recommendation to the city council. We would recommend that you go ahead and green light this, or we'd recommend that you did not. And then the city council, as an elected legislative body, is accountable to the residents of the city, can accept our recommendation or not accept our recommendation. And so one thing just as a planning commission is we tend to be pretty much sticklers for what the ordinance says, not interpretation, not that this set of neighbors might be okay with it because 5 years from now, there may be a whole new set of neighbors that have moved into the homes, and maybe they aren't okay with it. So, we have ordinance for a reason. There's been an evolutionary process in those ordinance. They've often been proposed and amended and evolved over the years to really fit the needs of the city. So we typically try to stick with kind of the four corners of the document, which is our guiding document, which is the ordinances of the city. And from time to time, we do get requests for exceptions or variances. And again, we have some discretion there, but again, as an administrative body, as opposed to an elected body, we tend to pretty much go chapter and verse. But again, thanks for input on that. So any other public comments on the retaining wall ordinance? Okay, if not, we'll go ahead and close the public portion of the hearing and open it for comments by members of the commission.
I was just going to ask Austin and the group here, there's no distance from the right of way that we're talking about. I mean, the cemetery, it could be hundreds of feet, or it could be 30 feet.
Yeah.
So we're not gonna add any kind of language of how far away it is from.
No, we don't have any distances in there in the current proposal, and that doesn't currently exist in our current ordinance either. So it's really right now, as it's currently written, if it's viewable from the public right of way, it can't be taller than 9
Even if
feet.
it's way back.
Even if it's 100 feet back, if you can see
Okay.
it, technically, you should
Okay.
go taller than 9.
Okay. That was the only question I had.
What's the significance of the 9 feet? Visual. So what's the significance of the 9 feet? What occurs with that?
The 9 feet. So a few years back, there was a wall that was constructed kind of on the north west side of town. It's visible from very far away. It was large boulders. People didn't like it. So the 9 foot, I think it was a compromise that was reached. What is too tall? If you go taller than 9 feet, you have to tier it. And so the idea was that you would have to plant vegetation in between to kind of break it up. So it didn't look like one solid face from a distance.
And then once you get into that, if I recall, it becomes the city's responsibility, right, for maintenance, for shrubbery. I mean, it was,
Yeah.
it was 8 was not tall enough, 10 was too tall, 9 was just right.
There you go.
Goldilocks, basically, yeah.
We just hadn't written that.
So all we're doing is just kind of defining the definition of what an exposed face retaining wall is. That's really
Pretty
essentially
what, that's all the
So,
only
yeah,
change
I
we're
mean, we
making.
had that in there already. We're just
yeah. We're
defining
just
it.
so I mean, I don't have much discussion on it. I think it's pretty simple.
No.
Anybody wanna
I
make
was
a
just
motion?
wondering about that,
Yes, make a motion.
if there was any kind of consideration on the distance away from that right away. And there's not.
Yeah.
Okay, anyone ready with the motion?
I can't remember the motion.
Can you bring it?
Okay, I can.
Yeah, let me pull it up.
Ethan can remember it with that look.
No, I've got it here. Okay. So I motion that ordinance 2022-08 be adopted as proposed.
Want to couch that in terms of recommendation?
Yeah, let's make it a recommendation that it be I move to recommend the ordinance 2022-08 be recommended for approval to the city council.
And I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Ethan and a second by Jeff. All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Nay. Okay, motion passes unanimously. All right, let's move on to action item B, which will involve again a public hearing and a concept plan for the Three Falls Upper Parking Lot. Austin, I guess you're up to introduce that as well.
Yeah, okay, so excuse me. So this is this is a concept plan for a parking lot in Three Falls. This would be an upper parking. So there's already a parking down on the south end of Three Falls. And this would be up higher. So let's just go to the next screen here so we can kind of orient ourselves where this proposal is taking place. So those that are familiar with Three Falls, kind of the sliding rock areas to the left on the screen here. This is kind of that pond up there if you're familiar with that. So this would just be, it's uphill from the pond, south of the pond. What is being proposed is a parking lot there. It would be 20 stalls accessed via a 20-foot wide driveway that comes off here. There would be a proposed trail connection into the existing trail system there. The mayor has asked that we look at this option to add some additional parking in the Three Falls area.
This is public parking?
This would be a public access. This is on public open space. It is, Three Falls is an interesting area because there is a lot of private open space up there, but this would connect into the public trail system. And so that's the idea, is to have another access point.
So the lower parking lot is the one all the way at the bottom, just outside the gates, right?
Correct.
Because then as
Yeah.
you go up Three Falls, there's a small parking area just with all the pavilions that I think is private.
That is private,
That's
yeah,
private. Okay, that's right there at Sliding Rock.
correct.
Then we go up above, and so this is another, how many slots? 20?
It'd be 20. is
20
what's
public
shown
parking,
here.
amenities up there, bathroom, anything, or just?
It would just be a basic parking lot, so just asphalt essentially with some curbing.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
And
Well, I guess I
actually,
did.
that's about all I have to say on it. Really, that's not a very complex proposal. I can show you a little zoomed in here, but you can see, I think I said 820. It's actually 18 feet wide right there. So that clarification. This connector here doesn't exist right now. So this area is actually being used as kind of a staging area for the construction of the subdivision that's going on right now. So this would have to, ideally would happen after the construction is complete up there. Ideally, they'd probably keep using this area as a staging area to keep things off the road and that type of stuff. So, but yeah, that's the proposal. That's about all I have on it.
Okay, I did notice, I don't know if this has anything to do with or any comment. I noticed Will came in. I don't know if there's any comments from the Trails Commission or Trails Committee, excuse me, on this upper parking lot and any thoughts with respect to this proposed trail connection.
Well, I'll be talking in public comment anyway.
Okay. Okay, if that's all we have from Austin, appreciate the presentation. Thank you. So this is a public hearing. So at this point, we would open the meeting for public comment on the concept plan for this Three Falls upper parking lot. Again, if anybody has a comment, invite you up to the podium, state your name and your address, and love to hear from you.
Hi, my name is Fraser Bullock. I am, my residence is at 2085 North Three Falls Drive. So I'm a resident of that area. I'm also president of the HOA. I'm also part of Three Falls Development Corporation. So I'm part of the developer and was here in this room when we negotiated all of this many, many years ago. And there are three key points I'd like to make. Number one is we kind of put together an overall deal that everybody agreed to. And it required us to do a lot of things that we had to pay for. One of those was to redo Fort Canyon Road, which cost us $6 million. Another one was to put a parking lot at the bottom of Three Falls so the public would have access to the trails. And we also built with the Trails Committee and all many, many other people all the trails through the system. In exchange for that, there are all the things, and there's a long list of things that we agreed to. In exchange for that, there are a few key things that we asked for from the city. And one was to only have 2 ADA slots up here because people could park down below, walk up above, rather than having a parking lot in the middle of our subdivision. That was the deal that was agreed to. And so the city agreed to this. It was all kind of a package deal. And I'm very surprised when somebody comes back and a deal is cut and they want to do a new deal. So I'm surprised at that because I personally was involved in every aspect of this overall package deal that we collectively agreed to. The second thing, and kind of embedded in that first comment, was that one of the requirements, people wanted access to this area. So we agreed to that. And we put in the parking lot at the bottom. We paid for the bathrooms. We did the whole thing. 27 or 30 parking spaces down below, along with all of the trails that we put in. People can have access there. And if they're disabled, then they can access the upper area through the disabled parking slots, which are currently in the existing plat. And so this had all been thought through very, very well. The final point that I would make is that we have all the lots are sold but 2. There are 57 lots. And all of the owners bought lots based on the existing plat and based on their understanding and based on the deal that we had with the city. And so for them to now see a change to what the conditions upon which they purchased their lot, like if somebody right across the street has a lot and all of a sudden there are going to be 20 parking places, or people just barely around the corner there's going to be 20 parking places there, they're going to say, what happened? I've been damaged. And so we know what happens when people think they've been damaged, and it gets ugly. And that's just not a place I want to go or anybody wants to go. So we believe that a deal was made and agreed to. We spent probably $8 million on our side, living up to our side. And we would ask the city to do the same. That's the end of my comment. I don't know if there are any questions or we just keep going, because there are several other people who will comment here.
Yeah, I mean, Austin, I guess we just may ask if you have any response to that, or we can hold that until later.
Yeah, I don't know if I have any comments to that. I mean, yes, when a subdivision comes in, the plat is looked at carefully. Discussions are made at that time. A development agreement is typically agreed to, and the developer signs that. And so there are terms of, what does the developer have to do? That's usually when the city gets to ask for things. So if they want trail system, if they want a restroom, they want a parking lot, that's their opportunity to do that. And so that's what happened with Three Falls. That's how we did get our parking lot that we have. That's how we did get all of those all the trails that we have up there were part of that original agreement when this plat was being approved.
Did the original agreement include this upper parking lot?
I do not believe this was part of the original agreement.
There are 2 ADA parking spaces that were agreed to.
At the same location?
Yes, or close to it, right? Well,
Down on the road.
yeah, just by the road.
Yeah, and the only other comment I'd like to make is that this is public open space. So we would look at it just like we'd look at public open space anywhere else in the city. So anytime a piece of public open space is altered, it does require a supermajority vote. So that means 4 out of the 5 city council members have to approve that. It does have to go through the public hearing process, which we're doing right now here tonight. So changes aren't made lightly, it's something that's considered very carefully by the city whenever we do make a change to open space.
And if I may follow up on that, because one of the we know this space is valuable, and we were trying to have open space, public open space elsewhere in the subdivision. We agreed to put it here next to the pond in exchange for 2 parking slots. Otherwise, we would have said, no, let's put it somewhere else because we were afraid of exactly this thing happening. Okay?
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Bullock. Appreciate your comments.
Hi, guys. Will Jones, Alpine, we don't need to know where I move. Reason I'm coming up is I'm not going to speak on the trail. As trail committee chair, I'm not going to bring that up. Reason being is what I'm going to say next is going to show you why I'm feeling strong about this thing. When we designed this thing, there were a few obligations to put some trails in, but we have more than doubled that obligation, thinking that we're enhancing it, making it better for everybody, making the access better, trying to get to the parking lot, make sure that everybody that wanted to could at least use these trails. And then we go and we sell the lots, and we sell 30 and 31 and 46 that are right, or 47 right next to it. And these people come and they go design their home. The other day, the person who was just south of this happened to be there. There were a couple people standing down, and they said they could hear every single word of the conversation because of the way the mountain is up there. The sound goes up, you hear it, you can, and they're going, well, we had, you know, if they put a parking lot there, that's going to be unfair to us. We had no idea before we spent the money on this that that was something the city was considering or even wanting to do. Why do we do it? So for us as developers, it becomes very difficult to try and understand what works best. We tried in more ways than I can even express to give you everything in the world in Three Falls. I mean, we have gone over it and over. We've landscaped the spaces to help it look natural, to make things better. We've taken over the maintenance of the landscape, even though it's city. We're paying for the water for it. We do these things. We go up and take care of the trails. We're taking care of the trails. We're cleaning them. These are city trails, but it was so important to us that this become a good public theme to now take the public and say, the reason we're doing this is it's too far for you to get to this. This only reason this trail has to be here is for people to be saying, we don't want to have to go clear to that up, walk up this to get to that. We want to go the shortcut. Well, that isn't how trails are built. That's not why we build trails. That's not the whole purpose of, and the reason ADA was suggested here is because at that point we were talking about that we were going to do some improvements in the pond, but we were going to keep it private. And in those negotiations, the pond went from private to public. When it did that, there's not improvements. We have done some nice things. There's a nice little walk trail around that we'll clean back up now when the spring comes again, because we planted it and then that goes over. But there's a nice trail around for the public. So we've done things like that. And then to have this put right in 20 spaces, I can't even imagine what's going on here. I mean, we provided 30, 27 if you put trailers in there, horse trailers, because we wanted to have that as an opportunity, and then 30. So for us, it just looks like, give us more, give us more, give us more. There's never enough. And this doesn't seem fair at all, especially to those who have bought adjacent to it now to have a potential to have this kind. Because if you go down in the lower parking lot and see how much time people spend there and talking and doing things, we've had problems already. They've gone after the restroom and stuff. Now we're going to bring them and park the public who knows where they come from or what they are right there and give them a place. And it actually is hidden there. You won't be able to see it in the way that you'd want to patrol it and to make it safe. Because we did restore some of that already. We're working to restore the balance of it, but I decided hearing you talk that maybe it can take me about 20 years before I finish the construction up there and you can do your trail parking lot. But anyhow, it's a very, very big concern for the people that are right next to it. Thank you.
So Will, could you just clarify if you made your public comment as a resident of the city of Alpine, as a resident of Three Falls, or
I'm not a
as the
resident of Three
developer?
Falls, so I'm the developer of Three Falls by making my comment as a citizen of Alpine and developer.
Okay.
And not trail, nothing to do with trail.
Great, thank you. Appreciate it.
Good evening. I'm Nathan Rex, 2378 North Three Falls Drive. Thanks for all your efforts you guys put in. I know it's a thankless job and lots of hours. Yeah, same concern. I'm here for the same reason. I was wondering, was there a development agreement that was signed for this project? And do we know if it includes any of these restrictions?
As a commission, I don't know, as a chair of the
Okay.
commission, the acting chair today, I don't know the answer to that.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean, there was a development agreement written and signed. There
Okay.
are between the city and the developer at the time.
okay. And it-
It does outline certain things like the ADA stalls that were being mentioned previously.
Okay. And so is there a plat amendment that has to happen in regards to this if you guys want to add this parking lot?
This would not involve a plat amendment because we're not adjusting any boundaries, any boundary lines. This would
Okay.
be
So there's an
contained
amendment
within,
to the development agreement then?
it wouldn't involve that either because this is public open space.
So you can do whatever you want.
It is city property.
Well, that's unfortunate. All of these expenses that the developer has borne as part of this, obviously, we as homeowners have paid portions of those to buy the lots. And so that damages the value that we believe we bought into as we made these investments. So that's unfortunate. I would call it bad faith. If the city agreed to doing this, that's not the way I understand people in Alpine want to be viewed or act. And so that's a very unfortunate situation to find ourselves in. And I'm assuming there was probably recordings of those commission and council meetings when those
Sure.
agreements were being cut. I would just maybe put on record, and let's make sure those don't get erased or deleted or forgotten somewhere. I've had that happen in another situation, and they were conveniently missing when everybody was speaking and agreements were being arranged. And so that maybe can shed some light on things if people care to go back and actually look at some of those items. So anyway, thank you for your time.
Thank you. And it was Mr. Ricks, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Nathan Ricks.
Appreciate your comments.
Good evening. My name is Aaron Sconard. I'm a future resident of Three Falls and a current resident of Alpine. I own 3 lots in the subdivision, lot 11, 12, and 21. And I'm a newer resident to Alpine, just moved here over the last, about a little over a year and a half ago, with the intention of moving into this project. And we have a big construction project underway right now where we've invested millions of dollars and expect to move in June. And I'm one of the residents Mr. Bullock was referring to who would experience damage in this situation. You know, we purchased our properties, these 3 lots, with a clear understanding of what the plat was going to look like with this contemplated. And to me, it looks very clear that an exchange was made, an agreement was made with respect to the 2 handicap parking spots. And so this, to me, per Mr. Rick's comments, feels clearly like poor faith on behalf of the city, because it's going back on a clear agreement that was brokered at that time. And so I'm strongly opposed to this. I think this would be a major lack of integrity by the city if this were to be approved after hearing these comments here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. I appreciate your comments.
Hi, my name is Rob Gardner. I'm a resident of 2025 Three Falls Drive, so just right up there in the subdivision. I won't repeat anything that has been said, although I agree with it. And so I have similar feelings, but the one thing I will add, my house is situated such that my bedroom window, I see all the cars that come up Three Falls Drive at 11, 11:30, 12 o'clock, 12:30 at night. When I happen to be up that late, I see those coming in. It's not commensurate with the number of people that live up there right now. They're not coming up at midnight to do good things, at least not that I'm aware of. So there are things happening up there that I think are a little bit concerning. It's a place that's off the beaten path where people can come up, get away. Nobody's up there. And policemen aren't patrolling up there. And so there's things that happen up there that are concerning. My concern is if we give a spot up here that is hidden that people can go to do whatever they're doing, it's another way for people to come up and have and do nefarious things. Not saying that everybody will do that, not saying that happens all the time, I'm just saying there are a steady stream of cars right now coming up at times at night that they're not coming up to walk the trails. That's just not what's happening. And so it just concerns me as a citizen and as a homeowner up there. In addition to everything that has been said, it concerns me that that might be something that I think would be exacerbated by putting this in. So that's the comment I would like to share.
It concerns me that one of those late night cars might have my teenage daughter in it.
It might, yeah. If I see it, I'll make sure to watch
Yes,
out
thank
for
you.
it. I'll send her
Yes.
back. Yeah.
Give your license plate number.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Steve Sorensen. I'm a resident of Alpine. And we are also lot owners up there. We own 3 lots up at the top of the development up there. And so, yeah, my comments would be simply to fully support what's been said. You know, we got short notice that this meeting was being held tonight. I can't speak for my other fellow residents up there, but my guess is that if they had known and had time in their schedule tonight to be here, that there would be a full house probably back here, because we have all invested a substantial amount of money in this development, and it's beautiful development. And I think the developers have made good on their promises to us, and we're grateful for that. I agree it would be in very bad faith based on what I've heard and what I've seen for this to go forward, and I could not be more opposed and would fight this with everything that we could to prevent it from happening. So, okay.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sorensen. Appreciate your comments.
Breezy, Hanson, 633 Wilderness Drive. I'm coming to talk about as part of the trail committee. And I don't own a lot in Three Falls. I think the only one that doesn't own a lot, but I did fish the river before you guys moved to town. So that was a change when they put in some roads. Now, I do appreciate having the accessibility, because for years and years, it's always been closed off. We've just jumped the gate and went and played around up there. Now, the one thing that I do find a little concerning is, was this ever brought up to the trail committee with this parking lot? And so this is the first I've actually heard about a trailhead parking. And so this is something that I would like to maybe have a discussion with the trail committee to see if it's something that we actually really do need, or if it's something that we can allocate funds for another area, another project that could be more suitable. And the ADA, you know, I think it's great to have the accessibility, but there are some that do not have ADA passes. So I don't know if we really need 20 parking spaces up in that area. Most people that go up there that are biking, running, they're coming from Corner Canyon, or they're coming from the parking lot down below. But I would like to, I think it would be a wise choice to at least bring this up with the trail committee before we make any decisions.
Breezy, I have a question.
Yeah.
What kind of utilization do we have right now in the lower parking lot?
Utilization of how many, or
at any given time, how full is it?
what, half maybe? Well, it depends on the time. When we have the flowers, when the flowers are in bloom, you'll have it pretty much 3/4 full. That's about as much as I've seen.
We haven't been backing up.
I haven't seen it backing up. I think it's fairly, Jeff runs up there all the time. And
Yeah,
don't
I
think
mean,
I've ever
when I
seen it
run, I'm the only car there.
full. Yeah, the majority of times you'll see 4 or 5 cars. If you do have some horse trailers, you'll have, yeah, but during certain times you'll get halfway to 3/4, but that's typically people going up just to see the flowers and take photos. But most people access it from Corner Canyon, Draper side, or from other areas. Yeah, I don't think this would really get used. Somebody's not going to take their bike up there and park there, but I could see somebody going in, an elderly couple that wants to go in and just have a nice leisurely drive and to go hang out at the pond.
Well, the only comment I have, on that, and this is just speaking, planning commission to trails committee is, and you and I both ride a lot up there. I can see an issue where I mean, most of the time, yeah, I agree. We're connecting this into this area, whether on foot or particularly on bikes from Jacob's Ladder or up in that area and bringing Three Falls around or coming up from the Cove and into that area. Or if there's any concern by the trail committee that having an upper lot and a lower lot starts leading to bike shuttling.
Yeah,
Like what, like
Yeah.
what happens on the downhill trails, over on Draper.
yeah, and we don't have, well, that is a very good point, because we do have some downhill trails that we are putting in that are, I could see this becoming a bike shuttle spot.
Not necessarily even downhill only dedicated trails, but just the fact that you get the shuttle crowd who isn't earning the uphill, but they're
Yeah.
gonna shuttle.
Yeah,
shuttle up
that
and
very
down.
well, I mean, that very well is a possibility. I mean, it's not, so
Yeah.
from that parking lot
You
down
still have
to
to
the
go
Three
up
Falls,
either
Yeah, how
way.
far
you'll go up a
Up-
little
up
bit and
Forbidden
down,
or up Three Falls
Yeah.
here.
but you'll have more, you don't have as much uphill from this section.
Yeah.
Now, it's public open space and I'm all for it. If we think we need the need, I'm all for it. I think it's great if it's for the public benefit. I would like to at least see the plans before commission or the council really makes a decision that affects the trails, so. Anything else? Any other questions?
How far is it from the pond to the lower parking lot? Like about,
I'd say you're
Two and a half
couple miles.
Two and a half
Yeah.
miles,
Okay.
probably.
Two and a half
Maybe not
miles.
quite 2.5.
Yeah.
It's more than 2.
And it's a good climb. It's a good climb, and I think this is a great alternate for somebody if you have a few of the, I don't want to call them elderly, but that may have a harder time on the climbs. So I think it is needed, but I don't think it's needed to be that big. Okay. Thanks.
Thanks, Breezy. Any more public comment? Okay. Oh.
Good job. Your civic duty.
Anyway, Joyce Ricks, 2378. We have owned a house there for 2.5 years. So I feel like we kind of are experts at the traffic, and it is insane. Like, I will wake up way worse than Rob at 2:30 in the morning, and I will hear hot rodding going up and down the street. And we're not even right on the main drag. We're coming back in. And we have a lot of grandkids. I mean, I have to watch them like hawks because the people just fly up and down that street. Sunday, you would think that we were in the Grand Capri. Is that the word, Grand? I mean, it is traffic like no other. And I can't imagine if we put another parking lot, that's just going to create a lot more traffic. So that was my thought.
Well, you did your husband proud. Thank you, Ms. Ricks. Okay, any further comments? No, you had your comment.
They brought me here for something else, but you guys are cementing my local political opinions, okay? This to me is the exact same as the wall. Andrew Young, 1371 East 490 South and 998 Stonehenge Road. I am not a resident of Three Falls. This doesn't affect me at all. I go back to the principle. What do the neighbors want? This becomes a selfish issue for me because I don't want a parking lot in my backyard. And all of our city council ran on getting rid of that Blue Bison Road. And now they're putting roads into behind other people's houses. I don't feel bad for the millionaires back here, but it's a principle. We let them put the parking lot behind their house. It's going behind your house next time. And what's your leverage going to be? Well, it's city land. They can do whatever they want. No. This is a city of retirees. They want quiet. They want peace. They don't want hot rodding. I'm a little bit younger, but I get them because I've lived here for 37 years. This Wittenberg has seen that people don't want parking lots here. They don't want parks. They want quiet place to raise their family and go to church. That's what they want. I don't know why the city council runs on keeping no growth and then grows it up. It's just, I don't get it. It's the same issue as the retaining wall. Just ask the neighbors. It's the same issue we're going to talk about here in a second, pickleball. No one asked the neighbors. This is just an easy solution. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you. Well, 2 comments. Millionaires are people too. So, and secondly, just as a general comment that we do try to look at things fairly and equally, not just for the neighbors, but for the impact on the community at large. And so, you know, for example, and I'm not at this point advocating one way or the other. It's not necessarily our job as a planning commission to be advocates, but it's a public road, it's public open space, and there's an impact to many more people besides just the neighbors, those who may want to be able to drive up there, park and enjoy the space. So it is often a balancing act that we do, you know, that we do try and be sensitive to. Okay, but thank you for your comment. Appreciate it. Any more comments? Okay, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing portion of agenda item B and open it up for commission discussion. Comments, questions?
Start us off, John.
I think it's an interesting dilemma. I think that, do we have, is there anybody here that is speaking for increased parking? No.
Can I make a question?
Yeah. Pete Larkin, 531 River Meadow Drive. I'm just curious, how many, when were all of these plans and everything created and the deals that were struck? What was the timeline on that? Are we talking like 10 years ago? Are we talking about 5 years ago?
Will, when was the final plat for Three Falls? 2015.
Okay, so current city council and current mayor have no idea what any of those things are. Is that correct?
That might be a stretch.
Okay.
I wouldn't say.
That's what I
that
was curious, is just timeline.
I wouldn't say that that none of us or none of the city council knew.
And there's probably a lot of people actually on city council, including, you know, Carla, our mayor, Carla Merrill was probably on planning commission.
So they were part, some people were part of the happenings.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just curious about that.
At least 2 or 3.
Thank you, Mr. Larkin. Okay. We'll brief reopen and then we'll reclose. So, John.
So I don't think it's our position to say if we're in bounds of whatever agreement the city made with the developer. That's not our role. But I think some of the issues that they brought up are within our purview. Issues about safety, whether there's a real need for it. I think those are items that we can probably get our teeth into. The issue of whether or not the city or the developer has a case for their wishes, I don't think is for us to discuss. But I do see the point of I assume this road goes down to this parking lot. Is that right? Is that the elevation view?
I'm trying to think of the contours there. I think it actually would go.
I think
up.
it's pretty.
It's pretty flat.
Yeah. So I think it's
The
pretty.
paved road is
flat.
lower than the parking lot?
It is.
No,
The paved road is above.
it's above.
It's all above. So
But it's, yeah.
on the left-hand side of the screen is downhill. And as you go up that main road, you're going higher and higher and higher. And then as you go into the parking, it would probably be higher than it would go uphill from the road, I would imagine.
So it becomes more sheltered and isolated from view of any public roadway, which I think is a security concern.
Is there another trail that goes right to the pond, or like how, if I wanted to go to the pond, how do I go to the pond? Can I go?
You can, because
You'd
this
have
is
to walk
public
on the
space. and
road.
There's a trail that goes right to there.
So there's a trail.
Yeah, so you
Okay.
can walk from there to there.
Okay.
and feed the pond.
There's concern I have. There are a lot of people, including myself, who have been pulled over so many times for saying on private property and they're not. So that is a problem when you live there. It's happened on my shift. I didn't have it 100 years ago. I hate worry about the
Should we speak
Speak into the
Yeah, go
microphone
ahead.
so
Yeah,
people
need
can
to-
hear you.
You need to say it in the mic so.
Can we
everybody
just
can
make
hear.
sure everybody's mics are on and
Yeah.
I'm using
Yeah.
this, that's fine. Okay. My comment is just, I feel those concerns too, when you have children, and I've seen a lot of changes in town since I've lived here for 4 years. But Three Falls has always been a beautiful place for all of us that do love hiking, biking. I love that there's access up there. I love that there've been concessions. I don't like that a lot of people that I encourage to go up there get in there's a lot of private people or people being pulled over saying this is private. That's never been private. I've been to a lot of these meetings where this was set up. And I don't think that's ever been, it's never supposed to be private up there. And I'm concerned about, I think it's way too many spots. We probably should check out why that number was the way it is. Is there a reason? I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good question, Austin. I was
yeah.
just kind of wondering the impetus behind, what, just from the city's perspective, why has it gone from 2 ADA spots to 20 spots for parking for the general public? Has there been request for that? What's the impetus behind the 20 stall parking lot?
Yeah.
proposal?
Good questions. I don't know if there's any direct relationship between the ADA stalls that were mentioned and this parking. Yes, there was a negotiation on those, on whether or not they should have parking, where it should go, or the ADA parking stall should go. This that's being proposed tonight is, I almost look at it as almost a new proposal saying, hey, why don't we do something with this area there? I don't know if it's necessarily saying we want to go back on what we agreed upon or what was agreed upon, 7 years ago. So that being said, the number that you see here, 20, I think we did, there was a previous concept of this that showed 10. And I'm not sure where in the process it got to 20, but it felt like someone felt like 10 wasn't enough. So we drew one with 20 to have a public hearing on and see what people think about it and have some discussion on it.
My feeling is that the residents up there, it doesn't, I don't know, maybe I'm speaking wrong, but 1 or 20. They don't want anything more than the 280, the ADA. They're like, that's what they want. So 1 more than that is unacceptable for them. That'd be my observation.
That travel back and forth just because it's just beautiful.
Yeah, and it's gonna change seasonally, In the wintertime, when I'm running up there, I'm generally the only car at the lower one.
Because the rest are sitting warm in our home.
I guess, for me, what would be worse is we have 1 stall or 2 stalls or 5 stalls or 10 stalls, and people want to go see the flowers. They want to go up on those trails now that they don't have to hike 2.5 miles to get there. And more cars are coming up there than there's space, and so then they're parking on the street. I think that would be worse, then every citizen from Three Falls would be like, we need some relief, we cannot do that. So I would rather have 20 stalls, knowing that we're not gonna have people parking on the street, and there's maybe generally 1 or 2 or 3 cars there during the week, maybe 4 or 5 cars in the weekend, then restricting it and having an issue. I mean, I remember when Three Falls when Sliding Rock got shut down, and we had, people from all over the state wanting to go to Sliding Rock, and we just couldn't have them parking on the street, and they would like park clear down the street. That was a nightmare. But I mean, I would rather kind of side on more parking stalls than less, to avoid future problems with people parking on the street.
It's just like the poppies.
Yeah.
Word gets out. Now with social media, and
Yeah.
that's become.
Are people parking on the street now? I mean, is there a lot of parking on the street and
probably
stuff?
gonna follow that.
I-
A lot of
in the
construction
code.
stuff
Because,
now.
I mean, even if we don't
Yeah.
put the parking lot, that'll
In the
continue,
middle of the
right?
day, it's.
I think generally Troy, generally, like Susan said, the perception is people that I know have been told for the last several years, you can't go up there. You can't go up there. That's all private property. You can't go up there. And security people can't go, you can't be driving up here. So I think the general perception has been public is not allowed up there. So I would say there's been pretty much very little until maybe recently. And I appreciate, yeah, yeah, yeah,
It's changing.
yeah.
It's definitely changed.
Yeah, it's definitely changed. Yeah,
And there are no sidewalks.
yeah.
What's the commission's feelings that this didn't get passed through the Trails Committee before coming to us?
Yeah, I made a note of that. I think that should definitely go before the Trails Committee. I feel like.
Sure.
I agree.
Yeah, because Breezy and that group is gonna talk more about need,
Yeah.
right?
It's a great connector, right? Right there to get to the upper, so you're not always parking lower. Some people like you're calling the elderly. You hate that. But when you get up there, is that a connector all the way over the chute, into Corner Canyon? Breezy, tell them down to that.
Say that again?
Is this parking gonna also be a good connector for bikers? As far as, I can't see because of the construction, there's a lot of the construction stuff there, a lot of it's avoid that now.
So they're gonna connect here to
So
Three
there's
Falls.
where. there's your
And then you go down across the street,
can't see the rest.
Three Falls, we go all the way over.
What do you think about that?
Well,
Breezy?
the
Did you
problem
park
is
there
if
for-
somebody goes up, I mean, if they park there, they would ride up Three Falls to the Corner Canyon, then ride back down. So you may get a little bit more traffic that way for biking and hiking. What I think you get most are people that want to go see Sliding Rock and go to the bridge. And just go up and kind of see what they've got, do a short hike and then come back. I don't think you're gonna get much. You're not gonna get I don't want to say you're not gonna get the biking traffic because there are those riders that just don't want to ride that far. But for the majority are gonna be people that just want to go to the bridge area and walk.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
mean,
think
sure know
it'll.
about that, because I mean, just like, I'm on those trails 4 or 5 days a week and, when they're rideable. And Three Falls is one of the best sections of trail up there. And the only reason it's thankfully not ridden more is like, you kind of got to earn it, because you've either earned it up the Draper side, or you've earned it coming up the Alpine side, right?
Yeah.
But I really wonder how many people, instead of driving below, either taking the road up and then jumping on Three Falls at the paved
Yeah,
road,
I mean,
or taking, you might get a fair amount. Just
I think you
and
would.
again, I mean, you could argue, well, that's great for the public. It's good public use. They'll use the trails more. I guess I'd be a little bit snob saying they haven't earned it, ride up.
Yeah.
But I think you very well might see.
I think you will, if you
More
give
traffic.
somebody an option to say, I can cut my ride. If I can cut it down by another 30 minutes, then they'll do that. Yeah, because they'll go up. I mean, in my opinion, I think the Three Falls Trail is best from Corner Canyon down, then up.
Sure.
But yeah, if you do give somebody an option, then I think they'll bypass that 2.5 miles. So they can have a quicker ride or a quicker run. I don't think you'll get the rider who wants to do the forbidden trail down because they've got to go all the way back up.
Yeah, then they have to go all the way
The
back up.
majority will be people that want to go up the sea sliding rock area and then up Three Falls and then down.
Yeah, and right now they'd have to park below and walk
Yeah.
up, so you gotta want it.
I get, yeah, thanks, Breezy. Did you have more questions for Breezy?
So, well, no, I mean, like, just, I mean, John, well, I don't want to cut off any further input or discussion points. I mean, I guess I would just make the point that, and there's really 3 options for us, right? Is that we can either move to recommend, you know, basically the Three Falls upper parking lot, you know, concept, or B, we can motion to, you know, not recommend, and then it's up to the city council to decide what they want to do. But a third option is, the third option we have is to table it. And a question, I mean, this isn't a pants on fire issue, Austin, is it? I mean,
No,
it's before
I
us
would
today,
not
but it's not
say
necessarily a
it's a-
pressing issue.
Yeah, it's not, I wouldn't say it's a
So
pressing issue.
I would just tell you my concerns, having sat on the commission for a few years now. First, that this is the first that the Trails Committee is hearing about this, as I can't remember if Ethan or Troy indicated that, and I would just be curious as to, you know, input and thoughts and recommendations from the Trails, you know, Committee on what kind of impact an upper parking lot would have on trail use, positive, negative, accessibility issues, et cetera. Are you going to interrupt my soliloquy?
No, I'm just standing up here because I want to hear you a little bit better.
Oh, you want to hear me better? Nobody ever wants to hear me better. So what do you want to go ahead?
Well, I was just gonna bring up, you know, because there's 3 others on the trail committee that didn't even know this was around. When I talked to Will about if he knew about it, he had no idea until just tonight. So that's a little concerning to me. I mean, not that I'm not saying that I'm for or against it, but at least knowing, because I think you're just gonna get more and more car traffic for people shuttling, which I don't know, is that something that we want to put the pressure on our trails?
No, but I think
Yeah.
but I think that's the input we like to
I'm not-
have as a planning commission after
from the
the
Trail
Trails Committee has had
Yeah,
some idea to think about, okay, what does the connector look like from the parking lot to trail?
mhm.
And then what's the likely use? How is it gonna, you know, what trails is it gonna impact? How is it gonna impact it? Is it a good thing to have more, you know, more accessibility for residents of Alpine, Highland, and Utah? Is it not a good thing? Does that actually end up bringing maybe too much traffic and too much input or impact on these trails? And then as a corollary, what are the increased traffic issues with respect to residents, noise, safety, kids, grandkids playing, et cetera, right? Not, you know, including the fact there's a lot of people, there are no sidewalks, there's a lot of people who park below and walk up to Three Falls and are gonna have a lot more, you know, does this increase traffic? I mean, there's just a few things to think about that, you know, some of those are within the purview of the Trail Committee, not all of them, not some of the safety
Yeah.
issues. But there are some things that I think that in favor of tabling, just as an option C, would be some consideration by the Trails Committee on some of the factors that impact accessibility and use of those trails that I think would be valuable for us to hear as a planning commission. So that's thing 1, which
Okay,
would impact you. Then I'll move on to the other things. So you don't have to stand there and listen. If you don't want, if you want to stand, you can.
I like standing.
So, and I would say on top of that, I'm concerned about the agreement between the city and the.
Okay, so let me address that real quick. It's just a thought, and then we'll see where the commission wants to go with it. So, you know, I was gonna say, I've just been here long enough to see where, you know, where I've just become uncomfortable making a recommendation, you know, either way, when we don't necessarily have the full facts. And I would tell you that one fact that I think one issue that I think would help us to better understand is what was the agreement, or what were the conditions and the bullet point agreement items on the original development agreement. What was agreed to between Three Falls and the city. Yes, this is city open space, but is changing it from 2 spaces to 20 spaces. Does that breach the development agreement? Does that expose the city to litigation? I don't know the answer to those things. Our city attorney possibly could take a look at that and give us some insights on the nature of the development agreement, the enforceability of those provisions. If we were to do this, are we materially changing that development agreement? And I would suppose those are just things as a planning commission I think we might want to know before we make a recommendation to the city council.
Yeah.
Either way, again, they're free to accept or reject whatever recommendation we want. I just think that in the past, when we've made recommendations without really vetting out all the facts and the unintended consequences, we've seen that come back. You know, and I'm not gonna say to bite us personally, that's not really the issue, but I just think as a planning commission, it's you know, part of our due diligence is, you know, to fully vet out the concerns that have been raised, you know, both by the city and by residents of the city on any proposal. So I would just say that there's some things that I'm not sure that I know the answer to, and that I'm, you know, would be a little uncomfortable to make a recommendation either way without knowing the answer to some of those things.
I would agree.
I agree.
So my feeling, I mean, my personal feeling is I would love a parking lot up there. Personally, because I don't live up there, but I would love to visit and hang out there sometimes. Not very often, but occasionally. We go hiking on those trails and we go up in those mountains. If I could start 3 miles further up, I probably would. So, but that's a personal feeling. I don't know I don't know anything of the details on the agreements, and I don't know anything about what the trail committee thinks. So I think we should totally table this.
We need to find a balance with the developers doing all this work for the trails for the public's sake, and making us, we feel like that those are, the public feels welcome to those. So there's, and not impeding on the residents. There's got to be a balance about that.
Okay. So we have, you know, like, we have, is anybody comfortable making a motion either
Well,
way, to table, to recommend, to not recommend?
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
A motion that we table the concept plan for Three Falls Upper Parking Lot until we have a report from the Trails Committee, as well as a legal review of the original Three Falls development agreement.
Yeah,
So before we vote on that, and I appreciate all the comments. I guess the other question, I mean, like, if we took the trail component out and just said, okay, we have public open space there. Well, what does that mean? Well, to me, the residents up there means we don't want people up there. If I was up there, that's what I would want. Okay, public space, nobody come here. That's what if I lived there, that's what I would want. Public space, what does that mean? Trail aside, do we want to allow our citizens to have access to that space? And what does that look like?
Right. Well, and I agree with you, Jeff. I mean, I would like access to that space.
Okay.
But
You have to remember the lower parking lot. Not full ever.
Yeah,
Right.
and it goes to what Ethan was saying. If I can avoid the 2.5, 3 mile hike, and I can drive there and I can walk around that public space, around the pond, or walk just less than a mile to where the flowers are, most citizens would much prefer that. So I guess I appreciate, I'm gonna vote in favor of that motion, John, because I think that that's wise. But I think long-term, it's like, what do we want for our citizens for public open space? And there's a conflict because the residents are gonna want one thing and the majority, I'm guessing, a large number of the residents of Alpine, especially those who have lived here a long time, want something else.
And I would say I would agree with that, say that's well articulated. The only thing that's still not clear to me is that there was a process and a development agreement was arrived at.
I agree.
And there was an agreement that, hey, that for this and this and this, we'll give up a couple of ADA
I
or
agree.
accessible parking spaces,
Yes.
which has now grown into something larger. And again, maybe that's enforceable, maybe it's not enforceable. Maybe those were recommendations that the city could take into account and abide by or not abide by.
Yes.
I don't necessarily know the answer to that, but I know that the residents and the developer believe that, hey, there was a negotiation made, things were given, things were given up.
I agree.
There was consideration made. There were certain inducements that were given, and there was an agreement in place. And at least there's a feeling by it sounded like the majority of the residents here and the developer that, hey, we gave up ABC for XYZ, and that was Z plus 2 spaces, not Z plus 20 spaces. So I totally agree with and how you articulated it. I just have that other issue that for me is what's the nature of that agreement, and what's an agreement if it's not enforceable.
I'm sorry to speak out of line.
And I agree.
You hit the nail on the head.
So,
Was there an agreement? Is the city gonna bait and switch?
yeah.
That's what it feels like to the residents. We feel like there was an agreement.
Well,
It's not an issue with you on
and
that.
so, appreciate that. Thank you. So I mean, I would just for me, there's questions that I don't know the answer to. And we may, as a commission, just feel like we're a little hesitant recommending or not recommending unless and until we had some insight from our city attorney on the development agreement and whether the city is within its rights or not to enlarge whatever the agreement was with respect to this public parking space. And so, but otherwise 100% agreed and well articulated.
So did someone second John's?
Susan did it,
Okay,
right?
I have no
So
more comment.
All right.
Do you feel like anything should be added to his? Or did you feel good about his?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
Marla, read it back.
Yeah, is Marla in the ether? Can read, was it John or?
Here,
What was it, John's motion?
John's motion, can you hear me?
Yes.
Commission member John McKay moved to table the proposed parking plan until the Trails Committee can discuss this and the agreement can be reviewed.
By the city attorney.
Thank you.
And both of those comments, when we want that feedback, come back to the planning commission.
Yeah. Okay, so did we, I mean, I think that's essentially your motion. I don't know that we need to amend it.
Yeah.
Unless somebody feels like we need to amend it. I think it's good. Okay, did we have a second? Is it? Okay, so we have a motion by John and a second by Susan, right? By Susan.
Yep.
Any further discussion? We're ready to vote. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we have a unanimous vote by the Planning Commission to table the concept plan for the Three Falls upper parking lot. And again, for the public comment, just to let you know, we love your involvement. We appreciate you taking the time to come and voice your opinions. So it's your meeting, your city. Thank you.
So when something's tabled like that.
Could you just, so we can get you on record and can hear you.
Hi, my name is Dawn Young. I'm at 542 Three Falls Drive. But when something is tabled, can we have maybe the residents given information when it becomes untabled?
Yeah, so what happens is the issue will be back on the agenda for planning commission.
Okay, so how do we
Notice will
get
be given
informed of
to
that?
everybody in the city by the normal processes of notice, which I guess is on our website.
Yeah, I think the agenda's up every
Yeah.
Friday
So there's a
before.
few
Check it
places
every-
you can find out. So one, you can come to City Hall. We post on this door and on that door on the outside of the building. You can see upcoming agendas there.
Okay.
That's if you want to come in person. If you don't want to do that, you can go to our city website. They're posted there typically.
So you just need to check like every Friday? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, about once a week.
Yeah,
Once a week?
yeah, every Friday.
So we,
And then alternatively, there is a state website. And you can sign up on the state website to receive
And you'll
notifications.
get a notification.
Oh,
So
Yeah.
if you go to the city website, there's a link that you can sign up to that. And
Okay,
so
that's great.
that's
So
really
then-
good because it'll push that information to you. Instead of you going, oh, I haven't checked for a few weeks.
right,
Yeah,
right.
Aaron.
Okay, the other question is, who proposed the 20 parking lot?
the city.
The city proposed it.
Yeah, it's coming from the mayor.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Hey, Austin, just real quick, will we then, so just a point of clarification. We've asked for just some insight and commentary from our city attorney on particularly that issue, that we raised. Will that come to us in written form? Will he attend the next planning commission meeting? Do you have any thoughts on the process by which we'll gain further light and knowledge?
That's a great question. So typically on most times when we have a question, staff will just talk to him, get his feedback, and we'll provide a summary in a verbal format. If you feel like a written summary from the attorney would be needed, we can definitely do that. Alternatively, if it's a topic that we feel like is strong enough, he could attend the upcoming meeting.
I'm fine with the summary, but that's just me.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I think you can just discuss, and I forget his name.
Craig Hall.
Okay. You can just discuss with him the context and see, what type of communication he would be most comfortable, guidance and communication, providing, just some insights for us.
I mean, even
on that issue.
if I had a written statement, this, what would the
Yeah,
city thinks,
probably.
that'd be
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
So would we have public hearing again on the
In a
on the item?
scenario like this, we would probably
Yeah.
push it to be a public hearing
Okay.
again, because I feel like there's enough
Yep.
of a
Okay.
vocal.
Public hearing, more public hearing is always better than
Yeah.
less public hearing.
So, yeah,
that'd be great.
typically, if there's an issue that's public hearing and it gets tabled, we would public hearing it again.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
great. Austin, thank you. Appreciate the feedback. Okay, last action item, C, is pickleball considerations and concept plan for the Burgess Creek side and Healy Parks. This is also a public hearing, but we'll kick this off. Austin, if you could introduce the subject for us. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, great. So essentially this is for two things tonight. One is we're looking at a pavilion to be located at Healy Park. So I think it was last year, or no, it was 2020. Yeah, 2020. The city council looked at Healy Park. There was a discussion about pickleball courts there. Initially, they decided, that was probably a good spot for 4 pickleball courts. And so that was what they decided at that time in 2020. Here we are in 2022. The city council, I feel, has had a shift in gears, and they feel like maybe the pickleball courts need to go somewhere else. So there's been some discussions about possibly putting those, essentially repurposing some of our tennis courts so that you could be kind of a dual purpose, or maybe just only pickleball. And so we do have tennis courts at Creekside and at Burgess Park. And so both of those options are to be discussed tonight. Would it be good to put an extra pickleball courts at Creekside Park? Would it be good to do that at Burgess Park? So that's item issue one that we're looking at tonight, but the second one is at Healy Park. We have a location for a pavilion. So maybe the pickleball courts don't go to Healy Park, but maybe the pavilion could still go there for the soccer games. And there already is a playground there and a restroom and a parking lot. So we do have a pavilion that the city has purchased. We're just trying to find a location for it. And so we're this is a proposed location that staff is looking at. So that's the second thing. So we need to look at, should that pavilion go to Healy? And then secondly, where do we want to put these additional pickleball courts? So that's what we're looking at tonight. I'll go to the first slide here is just to kind of show the pavilion and the proposed location of that. So you'll see here, this is the Healy Park on the left-hand side. There's a church here. This is a city parking lot highlighted in blue. There is the improvement area. Let's see, I think there's one more slide here. No, actually that's the other side here, zoomed in version.
Bless you.
Okay, so there is an existing restroom right here. That's on the west end of the parking lot. There's this playground. And so the proposed location of the pavilion would be right here. The idea would be to keep it near this path, accessible off of here, but also because having it on the north end of the park, you would preserve this area down south for the soccer field, and also potentially any future possibilities that you wanted to do with this area. You could just kind of leave that open. And so that's why it's being proposed to put the pavilion further north rather than some other location in that park. It felt like that was the most natural fit within the park. And so I guess, I don't know how you want to, do you want to look at this and discuss this, or do you want to also, do you want me to go into the pickleball courts as well, or do you want to break it into two pieces, or how do you want to do that?
I would just say, go ahead and introduce the whole, the whole thing.
Okay.
Is Healy Park the only one where the pavilion is being considered, or is there an option of putting it in any park?
Staff has kind of looked at it. So Creekside Park has pavilions already that you can rent those out. Same thing with Burgess Park. We're actually looking at renovating that. It's kind of a pavilion on the south end of the park right now. So that would.
Yes, please. I live.
It's a real
just south of
eyesore
that,
and
it's, yeah, I mean.
I thought we
there's
already
graffiti
decided on
magnets.
that one.
Yeah, so
I thought
that
Burgess
should
was a
be
forgotten
renovated.
part. Sorry, no ban.
So I guess one thing that should be said, so this pavilion was, so originally we were looking at possibly putting it in Lambert Park above the water tank.
Oh, yeah.
But that plan was
Nix that.
was nixed. So now we got to find a place for this pavilion that we know of.
Okay, gotcha.
So
Okay, but so as far as pickleball courts, I mean, we'd be starting from scratch in Healy because there's no tennis courts at all.
right, there's nothing at Healy, so it would be completely brand new. You would have to install it. It could, you have the parking there, but depending on where you put it, you have to consider, does it interfere with the soccer field? Does it interfere with, how close is it to the residences? All of those things are
And there's also probably a
considerations.
significant cost difference.
Yes, much, yeah.
Do we have that?
It's a significant cost difference. I believe we put this out to bid, but it would have been 2 years ago. So I mean, between the pandemic and the current state of the world, I don't think
Yeah.
those numbers are accurate anymore.
Yeah, put a multiple to that.
So, yeah, I mean, if the city did decide to eventually put pickleball courts here, it would be much more expensive than converting one of our existing tennis courts. And it's something that we would have to put out to bid again. So moving on, I'll just say, so this is a kind of a shot of Burgess Park. You can see here, we have existing pickleball courts, existing tennis courts. You could easily convert one of these into additional pickleball courts. It'd be right next to the other pickleball courts, essentially creating kind of a pickleball, facility or whatever you want to call it. So that could be an option.
So just looking at that, you can fit, it looks like that we could fit for
pickleball courts, for example, the center court there. I mean, it just looks like in the same space, you can fit 4 pickleball courts in the same space that you have 1 tennis ball court.
Yeah, I think
So we
the pickleball courts are a little bit bigger, at least as shown here. So I don't know the exact dimensions and maybe.
Yeah, but I think that's just a rectangle.
Yeah.
And the green is a wind deflector. So, I mean, but I think the court space, the court area is the same.
Pretty close.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, yeah.
walked it off. It's almost.
Is it
it's
almost?
fine.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, it can be done. So I don't know if we have to expand it a little bit or if they'd just be a little bit shorter than regulation. I don't know what.
So
but,
when we have a public hearing, it may just be pickleballers versus tennis player war. I guess we'll just have to see when we open up.
That's true. Yeah. I
Okay.
mean, it could be that maybe there's a strong, that maybe the tennis community is
Okay.
against this.
So right now at Burgess, there are existing 4 pickleball courts and 2 tennis courts. Okay.
That's existing.
Yeah. So that's option 1 for the pickleball courts. Or I guess it's option 2 if you want to consider Healy.
Yeah, this is as is.
Yeah, this is as is.
So what are you proposing?
That we would.
Yeah,
we
this is
add
not-
1 tennis court and add 4 pickleball courts.
Yeah. So the proposal would be to eliminate 1 tennis court and add 4 pickleball
Gotcha.
courts.
So only have 1 tennis court.
Correct. So Burgess would be left with 1 tennis court. Or I've seen in other cities where they've done, they just paint stripes on the tennis court and then it's a dual purpose. It's pickleball /
There you go.
tennis. But I don't know if you can only get 2 courts doing it that way.
You want me to say some comments?
We'll invite,
We'll have public.
this is a public hearing, so you guys will get to come up and comment in just a moment. Yeah. So I'm not an expert on pickleball, so I'll just throw that out there right now.
I'm not an expert. I'm elderly.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for
I've been offended already. So, but we've
This
done
is
a lot
no
of
offense
research.
zone.
I kind of represent the pickleball community there, of which is going absolutely nuts. Have you all experienced pickleball yet? So have you become addicted yet?
No.
Well, I have heroin. We can get you going. No, It's become an absolutely out of control sport. It has increased 100% for the last 5 years, every year. It's to the point now where cities like South Jordan are converting all their tennis courts except for a few to pickleball. And there's a 50-court complex going into Provo. There's a 50-court complex going into Salt Lake City. And almost all of the communities around this area are converting tennis courts to pickleball. And the reason for that is because the demand is so great. If you've been to Burgess Park in an evening when families are there, you can't get on a court. And if you've been to all the churches now have pickleball painted it, or in courts have been painted in now. And there's a group that play at the Stake Center by the roundabout. And there are 3 courts there. And if you get there anytime, they play Mondays and I believe Thursdays. And there'll be 12 people playing at one time. And there'll be 30 people waiting. And so the demand is there. And so this is why we really need to get additional pickleball courts in Alpine. And I know Carla Merrill, that's a tongue twister, isn't it? Has been advocating increasing the number of courts. And so we've taken a good look at it. And a couple of weeks ago, a gentleman from one of the companies that manufactures or constructs pickleball courts came and visited with us and walked the various locations. And it was pretty much determined that modifying Burgess Park would create some problems. Number one, traffic. There are no parking places there. And if you put additional pickleball courts there.
Burgess? At Burgess Park?
Burgess
You got
Park.
all that parking along.
Okay,
the
when
baseball
people
fields.
play pickleball, and particularly when you're playing at night and there's baseball going on and there's other activities, your parking is full and people are parking all over the place, as we found at Healy Park. And my original goal was to get the pickleball courts at Burgess, the tennis courts converted to pickleball, because it would be great to keep it all in one location. But it became pretty obvious that number one, to make it right, you'd have to extend the length of those two tennis courts, because when the existing tennis courts were converted, the original tennis courts converted to pickleball, they extended the court another 6 feet, 4 feet. And you would probably need to extend that additionally 4 feet to make it fit right, because 4 courts will fit on a tennis court. That's true, but it's very tight. And it's probably not ideal. We do that when we do tournaments, we temporarily tape those courts and use them. But after looking at the various options, we went over to Creekside and we felt that first of all, Creekside is probably the best location for a lot of reasons. It's more central. There's a lot more parking there. It's available during the mornings and the evenings when people play pickleball. To make 4 tennis courts, or to take 1 tennis court and convert it into 4 pickleball courts, will cost right around $45,000 today. If we wait a year, it could be $60,000. And the reason for that is that all the costs have gone up and these contractors are just so full, their time's all used up. We do have a contractor who would be willing to help us and get it done this year, which is drastically needed. You can convert 8, you can make 2 tennis courts at Creekside Park, convert it to pickleball for $84,000 to $90,000. To do 4 new pickleball courts from ground up is between $140,000 and $160,000 without lights. So after looking at the options, and I think I speak for most of the pickleball people, along with some of the people that are in the city, converting 2 tennis courts to pickleball courts is probably the right thing to do, because the growth
At Creekside?
At Creekside is the growth will overwhelm, even if we fix the park at Burgess, will overwhelm that in 1 or 2 years. And we'll be coming back and saying, well, we should have built more courts. And we can probably convert, by converting 2 courts there, we have a great location. And if you go by there, and I'm a former tennis player, so you have to understand, I'm one of those terrible tennis players who hate pickleball until I started playing it. Now, you know, it's become so exciting in many ways because everybody can play it. Elderly people, such as people have referred to myself, and well, your mouth, your face.
He got you.
Okay, elderly people can play pickleball.
Look, you are clearly the original gangsta of pickleball. And so you just don't listen to anybody.
You know, there was a guy that one time, about 40 years ago, wanted to put a gate up so nobody else could move into Alpine. You know, I was one of the young people that had moved in, and they didn't want any more people moving in. Now that I'm an old guy, I want all those guys to get out of here.
So your proposal.
My proposal is that we convert 2 tennis courts to 8 pickleball courts for about half of what it's going to cost to build 4 pickleball courts.
So your proposal is no pickleball courts at Healy, leave Burgess the way it is.
Yeah.
But convert 2 of the existing tennis courts at Creekside to become 1, 2, 3, 4 additional.
No, it would be
pickleball
8.
courts. I guess it'd be 8. Okay.
Yeah.
8 additional pickleball.
And frankly, the tennis people, in many ways, are supporting us and saying, yes, let's give us more options for tennis
at Burgess by fixing those 2 courts with lights. There are no lights at Creekside. So it enables the tennis players to play in the evenings. And then it enables the pickleball people to have more courts. And by the way, when we run tournaments, we will tape off those other courts, tennis courts at Burgess, and we use them. And they're temporary. We just use them, and then, you know, we could actually paint some courts on the other 2 tennis courts and allow them to be used for pickleball as well. But that doesn't eliminate the problem of the growth of the sport. And I think from an economic standpoint, it makes a lot of sense to get 8 more courts at Creekside. The facilities there, the parking's there, you have the pavilions, you have power, you have everything you need without investing a lot of money. Healy Park, honestly, it doesn't make sense. And the reason it doesn't make sense, first of all, there's no parking there. You know, you look at that park, the one you showed, Austin, is our parking facility. There's no parking there. So they overflow into the church. They park in front of people's houses.
Yeah, that parking's been an issue.
It's an issue
before us.
And it's a safety issue, I really believe.
Yeah.
So moving it from Healy or taking Healy off consideration makes total sense. Burgess, which was my choice, and I fought for it until I realized that it was not wise long-term to do it, makes no sense, honestly. We want to fix what's there, utilize what's there, continue to have events there, but yet we need to have additional courts. And I think Creekside, first of all, go stand in the middle of those tennis courts and look around you, and you see the most beautiful place. And I think, other than economically, I think it has a lot of advantages. But from a pickleball standpoint, we really need 8 more courts. And we can do it for less than half of what it would cost to build 4 new pickleball courts. With that in mind, I would like to, first of all, I have to tell you, I can't believe you guys do this. You come here every other week and sit and listen to people like me go on and on and on. And Susan, you're a smart person. I can't believe you've done this.
Yeah, we're
Honestly, we don't get enough people like you.
No, we do it for the money. We have a step-in chair here for tonight. Normally you only get 3 minutes.
They don't even give you candy or anything. Austin, you have candy?
Jane would have cut you off a long time.
We need to get. I think you have a large group of people here that I think you should listen to, other than me. But I think economically, I think we can achieve our goals for 50% of what it would if we built 4 new pickleball courts. Oh, by the way, I live at 484 Westfield Road, and the people that drive by my road are probably the same people that drive up in Twin Falls. And you know what? I could go out, I could walk out, I could go out naked and walk down and get my milk.
They do not.
And I would, and not one person would even see me. But the point is, you can't eliminate growth. We can't, and we have to deal with growth. And I think this is a prime example of where we need to take care of growth.
Okay, I think the timer went off. So, thank you.
That was wild, guys. That was wild.
Okay, so let's make sure we officially open this up for public hearing. Austin, thanks for the, I think we got the gist of the presentation. So, yeah, name and address. And if you could keep it to 2 minutes.
Yes.
Pete Larkin, 531 River Meadow Drive. I live just across from these.
At Riverside or
River Meadow, sorry.
Creekside.
Yeah, from Creekside. I absolutely support this idea of converting the 2 to 8. As we leave our house every day and go in and out, my kids come play at the park. A lot of the kids who are playing there now are already playing pickleball on these courts, on tennis courts. So a lot of the kids bring their pickleball paddles and they're playing already. When it comes to tennis, the majority of the year, again, a lot of you guys pass by this frequently, but we see it out our windows. It's 50% capacity On the busy days, it is full, but it's pretty rare. It's a couple of days a year, definitely in the late spring or sometimes later summer, early summer, but it's not frequent, especially during weekdays, that it's busy. On the contrary, like he was saying, on over at Burgess, it's almost always full. So there's definitely a need for it. I think it's a great location. It's already being used as pickleball courts. And I think it's economically, it's a great decision as well.
Okay.
But thank you.
Great, thank you.
Beth West, 926 Healy Homestead Circle. I just got a couple of thoughts. I'm a tennis player. Woohoo! I play competitive tennis. I love tennis. I played pickleball. Pickleball is a blast too. I like pickleball. Whitey had convinced me that Burgess Park was the best place for pickleball because I didn't want it at Healy because that's right in my backyard, the pickleball courts. So we were all, got all the neighbors in that area organized to give feedback about that. But so I'm wondering about Burgess, because I understand that the pickleball community, they like to be all together. And so if all the courts at Burgess were converted to pickleball courts, maybe the parking problem could be addressed by managing the baseball. I mean, if there's more, I'm just curious, who comes to play baseball? Are they Alpine residents? Who comes to play pickleball? Are they Alpine residents? So whoever meets most of the Alpine's resident needs, maybe that should trump the other one. You know what I mean? So maybe baseball needs to be managed and that would free up parking at Burgess, and then the pickleball community could be all together. I'm not opposed to maybe Creekside is so spacious. There's so much parking. It just seems like there's a lot of space there that you can work with. I'm just wondering, why do you convinced me that it's good to have them all in one place, because the pickleball community, they like to be all together. So that's just a couple thoughts. Another thought is that I don't feel like it's Alpine City's responsibility to cater to all, like for soccer example, all of North County Soccer Association's needs. And I've noticed that now they're tending to look at if the Alpine residents are on the soccer teams, which is nice, instead of expecting us to cater to everyone's needs out there. And the same would apply to baseball or pickleball. I mean, do we want a huge complex in Alpine that's going to attract hundreds and hundreds of people from all over the county? I don't know. Do we want to do that? Or I know there are some places that are big pickleball complexes. So I don't know. I just don't think it's Alpine City's responsibility to provide that facility for lots of hundreds of people outside of Alpine. Does that make sense? Am I out of time?
Oh, probably.
Okay. That's all.
Thank you. So just a couple of quick comments on that. I mean, and you could just, Austin could probably address this better than I do, but I think that the baseball fields are a revenue generator. I think that we do, rent those out for use, and just happen to live just due south, 2 houses in. And I know that, I mean, Fridays, Saturdays, weekdays, most of it's through the summer. I mean, it's a heavily used facility for baseball. No, I think they probably come from all over for the baseball. My sense is, and Mr. Anson could probably second this, is that I think most communities have their own pickleball. So my sense is that the facilities for Alpine would pretty much be used by Alpine residents. Because I mean, again, there's huge complexes going in Provo, other places. Highland has theirs, Lehigh has theirs. So I think that the pickleball is kind of a local thing for Alpine residents, whereas I know that the baseball does tend to draw teams. They have tournaments. These teams come in from all over the place, and they are, when they're there, it's all up and down the street. It's overflowed in the parking lot. They're parking over in the junior high. A lot of times they have baseball and football going. So it is the parking at Burgess is it's problematic, kind of crazy. Yeah. So anyway, thank you. Sorry,
No problem.
name and address.
Anne Marie Gordon, 198 Sequoia Circle. So just wanted to kind of let you guys know, in case you're unaware of all the things that are at Burgess. I actually totally agree with what Mr. Anson said, that, you know, Burgess, there's 5 baseball fields, there's a rugby field, there's 2 tennis courts, there's 4 pickleball courts, there's 3 playgrounds, there's a basketball court, there's 2 pavilions, and there's a sand volleyball court. That is a lot of stuff packed into one park. It is a similar size, if not smaller, than Creekside. There's a lot of stuff. It has a similar number of parking spaces as Creekside does. It has less street parking. And then, of course, we've got the middle school that we could potentially overflow into, except for they have 2 to 4 football games going on every Saturday, and soccer every night, and ultimate frisbee every night. And, you know, the area over there is busy. It is just quite packed. And we're already restricting parking along the neighborhood streets to try to help address some of that. So it's just really kind of busting at the seams already. And I think I'm, you know, I was a tennis player, and I kind of like that quite a bit, but pickleball is a lot of fun, and I think it should be a neighborhood amenity. I like the idea of spreading it out and having it in lots of different places. And I guess, oh, my last point is, so every summer, or during the summer, I would go running, and I'd run past Creekside Park, and then I'd run past Burgess Park. At Creekside Park, no one ever played at the tennis courts. They just didn't get used when I ran past them. Sometimes I'm sure they do, but the times I was going, but when I ran past Creekside, every morning there were people playing on the tennis courts, and 3 to 4 of the pickleball courts were full. So they are getting pretty well utilized for sure. And I would worry about taking away tennis there, because even if, you know, relying on tennis at the middle school isn't always the best idea, because they're also renting it out pretty frequently for their activities. So that's all.
Okay, thank you. Okay, anyone else? Any other public comment?
Andrew Young, 998 Stonehenge. We want to just say thank you for listening to the Healy, Edgewood, and east of High Bench neighborhoods. So I come representing them, and then I give them the feedback. So thank you for listening. We wrote emails to many of you, and they wanted a quiet park, and you all and the city council listened. So we want to follow up and offer help, financial, fundraising, and anything that we can do to help this happen. What Breezy is talking, I'm sorry, what Whitey's talking about.
Breezy is a clothed one.
Yes. So we didn't want to just ask for things. We didn't want to just ask for the kind of park we want, and then as long as the neighborhoods surrounding Creekside were okay with these, if they're okay with them, we would like to support and help this happen. If the neighborhood, and you've only had one neighbor, but it sounds like he was okay with it. So we just wanted to let you know that the Edgewood community and the Healy community that I'm here representing today, and even some east of High Bench, would be willing to help fundraise for the city to help that expense, which seems like not very much. Also, the last thing is, I believe he did not say, but he likes the inner 2, the inside 2 courts rather than the outside 2 courts. And I would second that as a good idea, because the biggest problem with pickleball, and it was the problem, is the noise of not the people playing it, but the neighbors or the neighborhood. It's just got a really loud noise. So if you put them on the inside, you're as far away from the houses as you get, and you hit what the pickleball community is, which we are not. I like to play it, but this is primarily something that Alpine pickleball people want. And that's all. Is there anything else though that you might know that would help this, that I can pass on to the Edgewood and the Healy? Because they were really up in arms about this.
Yeah, no, I think, I mean, we'll have further discussion, but
Okay.
it doesn't seem to make economic parking or any financial sense really to try and put pickleball courts up in Healy.
Right. So when you do
We'll
find a
discuss
place, if
that
there is
further.
something that we can help with, please let us know.
Okay,
So,
thank you. Appreciate it, Mr. Young. Okay, if there's no further comment from the public, we appreciate that. We'll go ahead and close public comment and discussion here among commission members. So I think the issues are pretty much pavilion or not in Healy. And then location of pickleball courts as between Burgess and Creekside and the conversion of existing tennis courts. So thoughts?
It's doing two separate.
It's just the proposed where he drew that, the drawings, and so was there backlash with your neighborhood about that?
No.
Just. Is that right?
I'll pass it on. Want me to come up really quick?
Beth, you can speak to this because she's even more impacted on this than we are. See, I'm just, if you look on this map, I'm not very close to this, but all of our neighbors are. I don't think they know about the pavilion and the, is it a playground?
Playground's already there,
It's.
right? Isn't
No,
it?
it's
No,
nothing's there.
nothing's
No.
there.
Oh, that's just been approved.
Right, so I'll
Playground's
pass
been
this on to
approved.
them. I'll pass this
Yeah.
on to
Just
all of
talking about
them and let them know this is the proposal. I know they will appreciate this far more than the pickleball court, so I'm going to try to encourage them as a great middle ground and compromise that this is a great thing that the city wants to do versus how much they,
Is this diagram available online at the website
Yes, yeah.
with the pavilion?
and I know the two
you
neighbors
can
who are
find
right
it.
there, the ones. that
It'll
will
be the
impacted
packet for this meeting that you'll look for.
Right, so I'll let them know that this is being proposed and I'm sure if there is, but I think we'll come to a pretty, this is much better for them than pickleball courts, given what their priority was, quiet. They want a
That's
quiet,
what-
a quiet
yeah,
park,
that's-
and this is
we-
where she comes in. So,
I have a quick question, the pavilion, how many are there tables in there, right? Is it, do you know how many? It would.
20 by 20 feet, so it's not.
20 by
very big.
20, okay.
20 by
Just
20.
curious on the
Tables are
size.
maybe
maybe what, two
Probably
tables or
two
three
to
tables?
four.
Yeah,
Maybe
maybe
four.
two,
If you think of
maybe
the
three.
sound and the traffic, I bet it will be a lot
One
less.
else
Oh, yeah.
than-
Well,
Said
then,
one
yeah,
or
they
two.
also said they would manage the
Thanks,
soccer
too.
too, because we're getting so much soccer traffic.
If I were you in your shoes, I would just, I will let them know, but I would just let them know and I bet you'll get a lot of support from them. If there's any way to do that. That was their biggest criticism. They didn't know about the pickleball courts and then the noise. So if you let them know, I bet they would be on your side for both of those.
Okay, appreciate the input.
Thank
Thank you. Okay, so issue one, pavilion. We've got a pavilion and it needs a home.
I like it.
I like it.
Let's
Yeah,
recommend approval.
I don't think anybody's gonna.
I don't, yeah, I mean, I don't think
At-
playground
at-
and a-
At Healy as proposed?
Yeah.
Okay.
Shade, I'm saying.
Oh, yeah,
that's
yeah,
such a
it's-
good
yeah.
put it in
look.
my backyard, I'd be
It's next
happy
to the
with.
parking lot. It's all-
Yeah, you can put it in
I
mine.
just want soccer field.
Be great.
Um,
Someone make a
Do it like the governor.
Are those two different motions then between the pavilion and then are we doing?
We can
this-
do them separate. Can we separate them?
Can you separate them into separate motions?
Yeah.
I don't know.
We
That's a good
have
question.
agreement. Let's keep. it
We can keep
together.
going. We can keep them
Okay,
together.
We know what we're gonna do on the pavilion. Let's go on to the
Okay,
pavilion.
Yeah.
so pickleball courts.
I mean, I think what Whitey said made a lot of sense, I think, just turn two of them, the Creekside into.
Honestly, I'm
pickleball
surprised
courts.
we didn't have more public outcry from homeowners in the area. Like,
Of,
pickleball is so loud.
But
Other
people
people-
love
that's
to
the
play
place
it and you
for 'em,
gotta
huh?
play it. So I mean,
Yeah.
there's no question, right?
Yeah.
Because just living 3 houses in south of Burgess, I can't hear tennis players, but I hear that pop, pop, pop. But honestly, it's like that, then I guess I go live in the country somewhere.
It's the sounds of
That's
summer.
just people like to play it. It
Yeah.
is a little bit loud. It reverberates off of the
Yeah.
homes. You hear it, it just, you know what, it's people outside recreating.
Yeah.
I mean, it is
My
what it is.
neighbors just
The
have
kids-
peacocks.
Yeah.
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 So,
Yeah.
John, I agree. I mean, it is loud.
I kind of,
But I mean,
I don't know.
No, I think you're right, though. I think it's
And
popular
this-
enough.
Frankly, this is a much bigger park.
Yeah.
I think the comment that for what it's worth, at least if you moved into the 2 inside courts,
Yeah.
you'd have a little more space and buffer from the homes there to the east.
I mean, if you can't put them there, you
And then
can't put them
from
anywhere.
the north and the south, there's a long distance to.
Yeah.
So
I think it's a good spot.
Austin,
Yeah.
is lighting these courts part of this project?
Are the lights there?
There's no lighting in Creekside Park.
So but that's not part of this
That's not what we're
That's not part of the
proposing.
proposal.
$80,000 improvement project?
No.
Well, then we don't have to worry about it, right?
So there, on these tennis courts, I believe there was
Yeah.
conduit laid for potential lighting, but That was done when the tennis courts were originally installed, but it's never been planned for lighting. They just put the conduit in.
Yeah.
It's actually nice
Yeah, I
feature.
think that'll cut down on, just
On pickleball, that's better.
don't go down that road.
Okay, so anyone interested in, I mean, I don't want to cut off the discussion, but there's a whole lot to talk about. Anybody interested in making a motion?
You're missing the whole motion, man. You're missing the whole motion. They're all having a pickleball conversation.
Just tell them that we, said no pickleball courts.
Yeah, can you bring the
Which
the
one do you wanna see?
sample recommendations?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I move to recommend that the improvements to Healy Park, nope, that too, right?
Yep.
Be approved as proposed and recommend that pickleball courts be. Dun, dun, dun. It's not on there.
Oh, no. because
That's what we're doing.
Freestyle on
Is
that one.
established as
At Creekside.
at Creekside Park with 2 inner courts.
No.
Converting the two.
Converting two.
On the western side.
On the west side.
That's right.
Yeah, the
Oh,
two.
you don't want 2 in the middle? You don't want them by each other?
Yeah, the western side keeps them.
Oh,
Yeah.
I misunderstood.
The two on the west.
When they said inner, they meant inner
Yeah.
towards the
Closer to the inside of
Creekside
the
Park,
park.
not.
We're
Oh,
good.
I'm
She's
sorry. I
right.
thought you wanted them in the middle of the 4.
No, on the inside.
Two
of
courts on the
two.
west side.
Maybe somebody else.
I got that at first, I thought, why? And then I realized, oh, it's.
Two western tennis.
I'm gonna
courts, yeah.
start over. I move to recommend that the improvements to Healy Park be approved as proposed and recommend that pickleball courts be to the west and have 2, each have 4 courts on 2 courts and convert those at Creekside.
Okay, I second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Susan and a second by Jeff. Any amendments? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, unanimous. The motion passes. Okay, and thank you for the input.
Yeah. that was
Very
great.
colorful and much appreciated. Breezy, you'll never live this down.
Yeah.
Okay, any,
Yeah, you're
Thank
fine.
you.
Wait,
Yep.
I'm putting one in my backyard if you want to just come play at my house.
Yeah.
hey, best comment ever. Thank you.
Enjoy it. Thank
Thanks for coming.
Thanks for it.
that way.
We'll never look at you.
Appreciate it.
It's just a minute, probably, right? Hey,
Thank you.
Okay, any communications from any member of the planning commission?
I have one.
Okay,
And I have one too.
Feedback about it. I have to say.
it's talking.
Talk into the mic so she can hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She wants to hear what you're saying.
If people knew that we were having something in Three Falls about, what happened tonight, there would be opposition to that, clearly. So I just think, and
Yeah.
I'm not saying one's right or wrong. I just like what you said at the beginning. We need to look for all residents'
Great question.
feelings. And that today was very one-sided.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, I don't know if people aren't hearing, but there were 2 other comments saying we didn't know about it.
Right.
And I
but yeah.
I hate that. because
Yeah,
We need to be very,
no, I
Very
agree. I
transparent.
mean, like we have, the notices out there. If you really want it, if you want to look, if you want to get it. We're looking at, I think
Yeah, Tuesday.
city
and it will
personnel
be
and
a
staff are
6
looking
p.m.
into
They do it in
ways
order.
to perhaps, text messages, email blasts,
Yeah.
do they sign up for the list? Do they not? So I know there are discussions going on because we've had those discussions a couple of times about just minimizing, because we hear it so often that, well, I didn't know, nobody told me, luckily I got it last minute from my other neighbors. It was, what is it, 101 Dalmatians, the barking,
Barking chain, yeah.
But, somehow people are get it, but we hear that complaint over and over. I think we're looking at ways to get more notice out to more people.
so it's probably valid, but there's probably also, that's a very easy thing to say. Oh, I didn't even know about it.
Yeah,
Maybe there's some of that too.
I mean, if people are busy, a lot of times, like until it's a not in my backyard, right? Until it's a NIMBY issue.
Yeah.
Nobody really gives,
It's really true.
nobody really cares what's
That's the
happening at
thing.
planning commission or city council. And then when all of a sudden, when it is a NIMBY issue, all of a sudden, why didn't I know?
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
That's
the
really
Canyon
personal if you
Crest,
want.
the Canyon Crest Road is a perfect example of
Right.
that.
Yeah, we had no one.
Yeah, oh yeah, they would.
No one was here and now it's like, I
But
mean,
yeah, we got accused
I've
of
been,
trying to hide it.
I came here to the city hall a couple times this week and Carla has been pretty much nonstop with people coming in. I want to talk to you about this.
Yeah, no, that's a big issue. So I mean, I think we're looking at ways, I mean, if people want to be informed, they are and can be. But to the extent that we can make it even, easier and so we can mitigate or minimize those complaints, I think we're looking into ways to do that, but.
Yeah,
Well, it gives us a little more balance when you know that people are coming from both their perspectives. I think that's healthy.
the other issue that I did not want to raise is it's like, well, where do we stop with the public open space up there? What if we put in the 20 spaces and then we want a pavilion? And the city says, we want a pavilion there next to that pond. We want a park. It's a public space. And so it's like, who knows what that looks like 5 years from now, 10 years from now. And maybe these people don't care 5 years from now, 10 years now.
They'll care.
But a public open space. No, the one thing I wanted to bring up, and maybe Austin can answer this, because I'm coming from this from citizens that are making the request, and that is there any reason why just at South Lambert Trailhead, is there any reason why we cannot open those bathrooms year round?
South Lambert restrooms. I think it's a matter of logistics. So we have staff that goes and cleans it and that cleans the restrooms. And so to do that in the winter time becomes an increased burden because that same staff is also responsible for snow removal and things like that. So I think it's just a manpower issue.
Because I see them every day when I'm running.
Yeah.
Coming there and emptying the garbage. But
yeah,
I mean, I'm amazed every year that gets more and more use in that park.
Yeah.
I mean, in the winter time. And so people are asking me, hey, is there any reason why we can't now? I mean, obviously vandalism, if it's open more, it increases the chance of being vandalized.
Yeah, they don't come out in the winter time now.
But there used to be, there was no cars there in the winter, but now consistently during the week, there are 4 or 5 cars there every single morning. And,
Because our winters aren't what they used to be.
We have good shoes now.
And so people are asking me, emailing me, or like, hey, isn't there a reason, instead of us defecating or otherwise in the park because the bathroom is closed?
I think you just need a key. You would be the guy. You're there every
You'd be
day.
the key holder.
Would he be the key holder?
No,
but I don't know what the process of discussing, but I did want to bring it up and get, comments.
No, I think that's a good forum for the communication and maybe, we can take that to the appropriate.
I can run it back to
the park, see what the response would
our
be.
parks guys and see what.
Yeah,
they have to think about it.
and maybe, I don't know what the hours are. Are they locked at night in the summertime?
I honestly don't know what the hours are on it. I know that vandalism is a huge issue though.
Yes.
So it's not, so you get the teenagers that want to put a firecracker down the toilet, but you also get, I've heard stories many times where people will go in there and the whole thing will be covered in feces, the walls, everything. And so they have to deal with that too. So the more bathrooms that are open, the more probability there is for that.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking of that one because that one's fairly public and there's people there. And even in the wintertime, even if it's someone comes in the morning when they're emptying the trash, they open it up and it's open during the day and then it's locked, at night. And so during the day, it's that restroom is accessible to the people. That would just be my.
Okay, yeah, I'll take that back and see what we can do about it.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. Any more communications? If not, let's move on to approval of the planning commission minutes from our March 1st meeting.
Anybody have any changes to those? And if not, anybody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the March 1st minutes of the Alpine City Planning Commission.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, motion by John, second by Ethan, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, unanimous. We are adjourned.
We have to, or we don't have to.
Troy was gonna make a motion for that.
I was waiting for,
He's
you know,
ready.
I'd like to.